My family skipped the grand opening of my restaurant. I stood in the dining room of Ember, the restaurant I had poured my soul into for 3 years, watching the empty table reserved for my parents and brother. The local food critic from the Miami Herald was seated 2 tables away, ready to write the review that could make or break my career. But the 4 chairs marked reserved. Rodriguez's family stayed empty. I thought they were stuck in traffic. I thought maybe my brother Alex got called into one of his gigs. Then I checked Instagram. My brother had posted a video from South Beach, dancing on a yacht with his fiancée Vanessa, champagne in hand. The caption read, "Living our best life with my real family." Some people get it. I swallowed the humiliation and greeted the critic alone. But 3 weeks later, when Food and Wine published their 30 under 30 list with my name at number 3 and mentioned my restaurant's projected first-year revenue of $2.8 million, my phone exploded. It was a text from my mother. "Misha, family dinner this Sunday. Your father wants to discuss something important. Don't be late." I showed up all right, but I didn't bring the gratitude they were expecting. I brought the contract they had signed 5 years ago, the one they conveniently forgot existed. My name is Sophia, and at 28 years old, I had just become one of the youngest executive chefs in Miami to earn a James Beard nomination. But as I stood in my gleaming kitchen, surrounded by magazine photographers and food bloggers, the only thing I felt was the hollow ache of being invisible to the people who were supposed to matter most. Before I tell you what happened at that Sunday dinner, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever been the family member who succeeded while everyone else made excuses, hit like and subscribe. This story is for you. The day of my grand opening was supposed to be the culmination of everything. I had worked as a line cook for 7 years, starting at 16, lying about my age to get into the kitchen at a hotel downtown. I had burned my hands, cut my fingers, and stood over stoves in 110-degree heat. I had eaten rice and beans for months to save money. I had maxed out 3 credit cards to pay for culinary school. And today, Ember was opening its doors. The restaurant was small, only 40 seats, but every detail was perfect. The exposed brick walls, the Edison bulbs, the open kitchen where diners could watch me work. I had designed the menu around my grandmother's recipes, elevated with modern techniques. The food critic from the Herald had confirmed her reservation 3 weeks ago. This review could put Ember on the map. My sous chef, Marcus, stood beside me as I checked the reservation list one more time. "They're not coming, are they?" he asked gently. He had been there through all of it, had listened to me on those nights when I cried in the walk-in freezer after my family called my dreams cute and asked when I was going to get a real job. I looked at the empty table. I had sent the invitation 2 months ago, a beautiful cream card with gold lettering. My mother had cried when I gave it to her, said she was so proud. My father had hugged me, said he couldn't wait. My brother Alex had promised to bring his fiancée, Vanessa, the woman he'd been dating for 8 months and wouldn't shut up about. Now, at 6:58 p.m., 2 minutes before we opened the doors, the table sat empty. Their phones went straight to voicemail. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram, that toxic app I should have deleted years ago. Alex's story loaded. The timestamp read posted 1 hour ago. There he was, on a yacht in Biscayne Bay, his arm around Vanessa. She was wearing a white bikini and oversized sunglasses, looking like she belonged in a music video. My brother was shirtless, his guitar slung over his shoulder, clearly performing for whoever owned the boat. The caption made my stomach turn. "Living our best life with my real family." Vanessa's parents know how to celebrate success. Some people get it, some people don't. Blessed with the right energy. The right energy. My restaurant opening wasn't the right energy. My years of sacrifice weren't worth showing up for. But a free boat ride was. I felt Marcus's hand on my shoulder. "Sophia, the critic is here. Table 7. You need to focus." I looked through the small window in the kitchen door. There she was, Linda Martinez from the Miami Herald, the woman whose reviews could fill a restaurant for months or empty it overnight. She was looking at the menu, her face unreadable. I could have called them. I could have asked why. I could have begged them to explain how they could do this to me. Instead, I took a deep breath, tied my apron tighter, and walked into the dining room. The night was a blur of tickets, of plating, of making sure every dish that left my kitchen was perfect. The critic ordered the ropa vieja croquettes, my grandmother's recipe that I had refined over 2 years. She ordered the mojo marinated pork belly. She ordered the tres leches cake that had made my culinary school professor cry. When she left 3 hours later, she shook my hand. "I haven't tasted food like that in Miami in years," she said. "Your grandmother would be proud." I wanted to believe her, but all I could think about was the empty table, the 4 place settings that the busboy had quietly removed halfway through service. I closed the restaurant at midnight. Marcus helped me clean up, neither of us saying much. When I finally got to my car, my phone was full of notifications. Congratulations from other chefs, from former classmates, from regular customers who had come to support me. But nothing from my family. Then, at 12:47 a.m., as I was driving home, my phone buzzed. Not a congratulations, not an apology. A text from Vanessa. "Hey girl, heard the opening was cute. We were at Diego's parents' yacht party, so exclusive, lol. But we'll def stop by sometime for the fam discount. Proud of you." I pulled over. I sat in my car in a Walgreens parking lot, and I cried. Not because they hadn't come, but because they thought a text like that was acceptable. The Herald review came out 3 days later. It was glowing. 5 stars. Linda Martinez called Ember a revelation and the future of Miami cuisine. The waiting list for reservations went from 2 weeks to 2 months overnight. Food bloggers showed up unannounced. A producer from a Food Network show called About a Feature. And that's when my phone started ringing. The first call was from Alex. I let it go to voicemail. "Yo, sis, saw the Herald review. That's crazy. Listen, Vanessa and I want to throw an engagement party at Ember. How much would you charge family? Actually, maybe we could work out a trade? I'll perform some songs, you provide the food? Call me back." I deleted it. The second call was from my mother. "Mija, we saw the article. Your father and I are so proud. We've been telling everyone about our daughter, the chef. Listen, we need to talk about something important. Can you come to Sunday dinner this week? It's about the family." I stared at the phone. They hadn't called after the opening. They hadn't apologized for not showing up. They went straight to, "We need to talk about something important." I called my mother back. "What's this about, Mom?" "Just come to dinner, Sophia. Your father wants to discuss a family matter. It's important." "Is everyone okay? Is someone sick?" "Everyone is fine. Just come on Sunday, 6 o'clock. Don't be late." She hung up before I could ask more questions. I looked at Marcus across the kitchen prep station. We were working on the new spring menu. "They want to have a family meeting," I said. Marcus stopped chopping. "Did they apologize for missing your opening?" "No." "Did they congratulate you on the James Beard nomination?" That had come out yesterday. Food and Wine had published their 30 under 30 list, and I was number 3. The article mentioned that Ember was projected to bring in $2.8 million in its first year. It mentioned that I had offers from investors to open a second location. It mentioned that at 28, I was one of the youngest chefs in Miami making waves in the culinary world. "Not yet," I said. Marcus put down his knife. "Sophia, they saw the dollar signs. That's what this is about." I wanted to argue with him. I wanted to believe that my family loved me for me, not for what I could do for them. But deep down, I knew he was right. Sunday came. I drove to my parents' house in Hialeah, the same house I grew up in. The house was small, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, with a backyard where my grandmother used to grow herbs. My father had bought it 30 years ago, when he immigrated from Cuba. It was paid off, but barely maintained. The paint was peeling, the roof needed work. I parked behind my brother's car, a BMW he claimed to have leased but that I suspected Vanessa's parents had bought for him. He was 31, still living at home, still chasing his dream of being a musician. He played gigs at bars and weddings, made maybe $15,000 a year, and spent most of his time at Vanessa's parents' mansion in Coral Gables. I walked to the front door, and before I could knock, it swung open. My mother, Elena, stood there in her best dress, the one she wore to church. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "Mija!" She pulled me into a hug that lasted too long. "We've missed you so much." She hadn't missed me enough to show up at my opening. I walked into the living room. The coffee table had been cleared, and there were papers spread out on it. Financial documents, My father, Roberto, sat in his chair, looking older than I remembered. My brother was on the couch, Vanessa next to him. She was wearing a designer dress, her engagement ring catching the light. That ring was bigger than anything my brother could afford. And standing near the kitchen was someone I didn't recognize. A man in a suit, maybe 50, with a briefcase. "Sophia, sit down," my father said. He didn't get up to hug me. I stayed standing. "What's this about, Dad?" The man in the suit stepped forward, extending his hand. "Sophia, I'm Richard Delgado. I'm a family estate attorney. Your parents have asked me to help with some planning." I looked at my mother. "Planning for what?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Your father's health isn't good, Mija. The doctor says his heart is weak. We need to make sure everything is in order. For the family." My stomach dropped. "Dad, are you okay? What did the doctor say?" My father waved his hand dismissively. "I'm fine. Your mother worries too much, but we're getting older, and we need to think about the future. About what happens to the house, to the family recipes, to everything we've built." "Okay," I said slowly. "What does that have to do with me?" Richard opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Your parents want to create a family trust. It would consolidate certain assets to protect them and ensure they're passed down properly." "What assets?" I asked. "The house," Richard said. "And the intellectual property." I looked at my mother. "What intellectual property?" Alex spoke up for the first time. His voice had that condescending tone he'd perfected. "The recipes, Sophia. Abuela's recipes. The ones you've been using at your restaurant." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Those are family recipes. I'm not the only one who can use them." "Exactly," Vanessa said, her voice sweet like poison. "They're family recipes, which means they belong to the family, not just you." I turned to face her. This woman who had been dating my brother for 8 months, who had never met my grandmother, who had skipped my restaurant opening to party on a yacht. "I'm sorry," I said. "But who are you to have an opinion on my family's recipes?" Vanessa smiled, holding up her left hand to show off the ring. "I'm going to be family soon. And Alex and I have been talking. These recipes are valuable. You've proven that. You've built a whole restaurant around them. That intellectual property should be protected." My mother jumped in. "She's right, Mija. We never thought about it before, but now that Ember is so successful, we need to make sure those recipes are protected. We don't want some corporation stealing them. So you want to put them in a trust," I said. "And who would manage this trust?" Richard cleared his throat. "Your parents would be the primary trustees. Upon their passing, the responsibility would transfer to the children equally. Alex and Sophia would share control." I laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. "You want Alex, who can't hold a job, to have control over my grandmother's recipes. The recipes I've spent years perfecting?" Alex stood up. "See, Dad? I told you she'd be like this. She thinks she's better than everyone now that she's got some fancy restaurant." "I think I'm the one who actually worked to honor Abuela's legacy," I shot back. "Where were you when I was working 16-hour days? Where were you at my opening?" "We were busy," Vanessa said, examining her nails. "You can't expect everyone to drop everything for a restaurant opening." "But you expect me to drop everything for this ambush?" My father slammed his hand on the arm of his chair. "Enough. Sophia, this is not an ambush. This is family business. We're trying to protect what's ours. What's yours?" I felt my voice rising. "Those recipes became valuable because I spent years learning how to cook them. I spent years in culinary school. I spent my life savings opening that restaurant. You didn't even show up." My mother started crying. "We're sorry we missed it, Mija. There was a misunderstanding. Alex said it was the following weekend." I turned to my brother. "You told them the wrong date?" Alex shrugged. "I must have gotten confused. I'm not good with dates." "It was on the invitation." I pulled out my phone and showed them the photo of the invitation I'd sent. October 15th, 6 p.m. "How is that confusing?" Vanessa put her hand on Alex's arm. "Baby, don't let her bully you. She's always been like this." I stared at her. "You've known me for 8 months. How would you know what I've always been like?" "Your family tells me things," Vanessa said. "They tell me how you always had to be the center of attention, how you wouldn't help with the family business, how you abandoned them to chase some dream." "What family business?" I was yelling now. We don't have a family business. Alex doesn't work. I'm the only one who. That's exactly the problem, my father interrupted. You think you're the only one who matters. You think because you have a fancy restaurant, you're better than us. These recipes, they're not just yours, Sophia. They belong to all of us. I looked at the papers on the table. I picked up the trust document. It wasn't just about protecting the recipes. It was about control. The trust would give my parents, and eventually Alex, the right to approve or deny any use of the family recipes. They could shut down my restaurant. They could license the recipes to someone else. They could sell them. This isn't about protection, I said quietly. This is about money. You saw the article about the $2.8 million. You saw that I'm successful, and now you want a piece of it. My mother reached for my hand. Mija, that's not fair. We just want to make sure the family legacy is preserved. I pulled my hand away. I reached into my purse and pulled out my own folder. I'd brought it just in case. Inside was a contract, yellowed with age, signed 5 years ago. Do you remember this? I asked, placing it on the table. My father picked it up. His face went pale. What is that? Alex asked. It's a contract, I said. Signed 5 years ago by Mom and Dad. They gave me full rights to Abuela's recipes in exchange for me taking care of her medical bills for the last 2 years of her life. The room went silent. Abuela's cancer treatment cost $180,000, I continued. I was working 3 jobs. I deferred culinary school. I paid every penny because you told me the insurance wouldn't cover it. You told me that if I loved Abuela, I would help. And I did. And in exchange, you signed over the rights to her recipes to me. It's all legal. It's notarized. Those recipes are mine. My mother's face crumbled. But you said you didn't want anything for that. You said you were happy to help. I was happy to help, I said. I loved Abuela, but you insisted on the contract. You said it was only fair that I got something for my sacrifice. Remember? I did remember. It was my father's idea. He had felt guilty about not being able to pay for his own mother's treatment. He had wanted to give me something in return. The recipes had seemed like a symbolic gesture at the time. Just family recipes, nothing more. But now they were worth millions. That was before we knew they'd be worth anything, Alex said. That contract isn't fair anymore. Why? I asked. Because I made them worth something? Because I worked for it? Vanessa stood up. This is ridiculous. You can't just take the family's heritage and profit off it while they get nothing. They get Abuela's legacy preserved, I said. They get a restaurant that honors her. They get her name on every menu. That's what they get. But no money, Vanessa said. You're making millions, and your family sees nothing. I turned to her. And what exactly have you contributed to this family? I'm supporting Alex, she said. I'm helping him pursue his dreams. By paying for everything while he pretends to be a musician? Alex jumped up. I am a musician. Just because I'm not making money yet doesn't mean I'm not successful. You're 31, Alex. You live at home. You don't pay rent. Mom still does your laundry. When are you going to grow up? My father stood up. Enough! Sophia, you will not disrespect your brother in this house. But he can disrespect me? He can lie about my opening date? He can skip the most important night of my life to party on a yacht? That's different, my father said. How? How is it different? Because Alex needs our support, my mother cried. You've always been strong, Sophia. You've always been independent. But Alex, he's sensitive. He needs us. There it was. The truth I'd always known but never wanted to face. Alex was the baby, the boy, the one who needed protection. I was the strong one, the one who could handle anything. I didn't need support. I didn't need them. Except I did. I had needed them. I had needed them to show up. I had needed them to be proud of me. I had needed them to see me as more than just the reliable one who would always be there to fix things. I picked up my folder. I'm not signing this trust. The recipes are legally mine. If you want to challenge that, take me to court. Richard, the attorney, spoke up. Miss Rodriguez, that might not be wise. Family disputes can be costly. Perhaps we can negotiate something. Negotiate what? I asked. They want control of my restaurant. They want a piece of my success. They didn't earn it. We're your family, my mother sobbed. Family shares. Really? I said. Where was the sharing when I paid Abuela's medical bills? Where was the sharing when I worked 3 jobs? Where was the sharing when I needed a loan to open my restaurant and Dad said no because it was too risky? My father's jaw tightened. That was different. We didn't have money to give you. But you had money to co-sign Alex's car lease. You had money to pay for his guitar lessons. You had money for his studio time that never produced anything. That's because we believe in him, my mother shouted. The words hung in the air like a guillotine. And you don't believe in me, I said softly. My mother reached for me. Mija, that's not what I meant. Yes, it is. I felt tears burning my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not here. Not in front of them. You've never believed in me. That's why you didn't come to my opening. That's why you're here now with lawyers and contracts instead of congratulations. You don't see a daughter who succeeded. You see a source of income. I walked toward the door. If you leave, you're choosing money over family, my father said. I turned back. No, Dad, you already did that. I'm just choosing myself. I walked out of that house and got in my car. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove 3 blocks, pulled into a parking lot, and finally let myself cry. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. You're being selfish. Family comes first. Maybe if you cared about anyone but yourself, you'd understand that. I stared at the message. Then I blocked his number. Another text, this time from Vanessa. Just so you know, Alex and I are planning our engagement party. We wanted to have it at Ember, but clearly you don't value family. We'll make sure everyone knows how you treated your own brother. I blocked her too. Then came the text from my mother. Mija, please come back. We can talk about this. Your father didn't mean what he said. We love you. Please don't do this. I turned off my phone and drove to the restaurant. It was Sunday, our day off, but I needed to be somewhere that felt like mine. I let myself in through the back door and sat in my office. That's when I saw it. On my desk was a folder I didn't recognize. A note was attached. Sophia, you need to see this. Call me. Marcus. I opened the folder. Inside were screenshots of social media posts, bank records, and news articles, all about Vanessa's parents. Her father, it turned out, was currently under investigation by the SEC for securities fraud. Her mother had filed for bankruptcy twice. The mansion in Coral Gables? Rented. The yacht? Belonged to her father's business partner, who was also under investigation. The money Vanessa threw around? It was borrowed against assets that were about to be seized. I kept reading. There was more. Vanessa had been engaged twice before, both times to men from wealthy families. Both engagements had ended in messy breakups that involved missing money and forged checks. She had been quietly banned from several exclusive clubs in Miami for theft. Marcus had done his homework. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on. A text from Marcus. Checked your office? Vanessa's bad news. I have a friend who works in finance. She's a con artist. Your brother has no idea. Neither do your parents. Call me. I sat there, staring at the documents. My brother was about to marry a criminal. My family was about to be destroyed by this woman. And they had just spent the last 2 hours telling me I was selfish. I could tell them. I could warn them. I could save them from the disaster they were walking into. Or I could let them learn on their own. I picked up my phone and made a decision that would change everything. I called Richard Delgado, the estate attorney. Richard, this is Sofia Rodriguez. I have a question about that family trust. Of course, Miss Rodriguez. What can I help you with? If I were to agree to the trust, would there be a clause about who can marry into the family? Specifically, can we require background checks for anyone marrying a beneficiary? There was a pause. That's an unusual request. But yes, we could include provisions about financial transparency and background checks for spouses. It's done sometimes in high-net-worth families. Why do you ask? Because I think you should run a background check on Vanessa Chen before my brother marries her. And I think my parents should see the results before they sign anything. Do you have reason to believe there's an issue? I have proof, I said, and I'll share it with you. But I want you to present it to them as part of your standard due diligence. They won't listen if it comes from me. Richard was quiet for a moment. Miss Rodriguez, if what you're saying is true, this could save your family from significant legal and financial trouble. I know, I said. That's why I'm doing it. Even after the way they treated you today? They're still my family, I said. Even if they don't act like it. I spent the next week preparing. The engagement party was scheduled for the following Saturday at some rented ballroom in Coral Gables. Vanessa had posted about it constantly on Instagram, showing off the preparations, the dress she'd bought, the elaborate decorations she'd ordered, all on my brother's credit cards, which I discovered were maxed out. Marcus and I worked with Richard. We compiled everything: the SEC investigation, the bankruptcy filings, the previous engagement scandals, the theft reports. We verified every document, made sure everything was admissible and legal. On Thursday, Richard called a family meeting at his office. He told them it was standard procedure before finalizing the trust. My parents came, Alex came, Vanessa came, dressed like she was going to a fashion show. I came too, though they didn't know I would be there. Richard started with the basics, explaining the trust structure. Then he got to the part about spousal background checks. Given that this trust will contain significant assets, including valuable intellectual property, I recommend we implement a standard procedure for any spouses or partners of beneficiaries. This includes financial disclosures and background verification. Vanessa's face went white. That's ridiculous. That's an invasion of privacy. It's standard practice in estate planning, Richard said calmly. If you're going to be part of the family, there should be transparency. Alex, tell him this is crazy, Vanessa said. My brother looked uncomfortable. I mean, babe, if it's standard, maybe we should just… No, Vanessa said firmly. This is Sophia's doing. She's trying to control us. I don't have to prove anything to her. It's not Sophia's requirement, Richard said. It's mine. And it's for everyone. Sophia would have to do the same if she were to marry. Fine, Vanessa snapped. I have nothing to hide. Richard slid a document across the table. Then you won't mind signing this authorization for a standard background check. Vanessa picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking. She started to sign, then stopped. Actually, she said, standing up, I don't need to do this. This is insulting. Alex, let's go. Alex looked confused. But babe, if you have nothing to hide… I said let's go. Vanessa grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Richard's voice stopped her. Miss Chen, before you leave, you should know that I've already conducted a preliminary background check. It's standard procedure for my due diligence. I thought you should know that there are some concerning findings. Vanessa froze. What kind of findings? My mother asked. Richard opened his folder. Your parents are currently under SEC investigation for operating a Ponzi scheme. You've been engaged twice before, both engagements ending in theft allegations. You have outstanding warrants in 2 states for fraud. And the ring you're wearing? It was purchased on a credit card in Alex's name, which you've maxed out to $47,000. The room erupted. My brother stood up. That's not true. Vanessa, tell them it's not true. Vanessa's face went from white to red. This is a setup. Sophia put you up to this. The documents are public record, Richard said. I can show you everything. My father looked at Vanessa. Is this true? Are you using my son? Vanessa looked around the room. Her eyes landed on me, standing in the corner. You, she hissed. You couldn't stand that I was happy with Alex. You had to ruin it. I didn't ruin anything, I said calmly. I just made sure my family knew the truth before they got hurt. You're jealous, Vanessa screamed. You're alone and miserable, and you can't stand that Alex found someone. Alex turned to her. Vanessa, is any of this true? She looked at him. For a moment, I thought she might confess, might apologize, might show some shred of humanity. Instead, she ran. She grabbed her purse and bolted from the office. Alex stood there, stunned, watching her go. I'll get my money back, right? He asked weakly. The credit cards? My mother was crying. My father sat in his chair, looking 20 years older. I'm sorry, Richard said, but given the credit cards are in your name, you're liable for the debt. Alex turned to our father. Dad, I need help. I need to pay this off. My father looked at him. With what, Alex? We don't have $47,000. Alex turned to me. Of course he did. Sophia, he said. I know we've had our differences, but I'm your brother. I need help. I looked at him. At this 31-year-old man who had never worked a real job, who had skipped my opening, who had called me selfish just a week ago. No, I said. What? I said no. You got yourself into this. You need to get yourself out. But I can't. Alex's voice broke. I don't have any money. I'll have to declare bankruptcy. Then declare bankruptcy, I said. Get a job. Learn what it means to work for something. Learn what it means to struggle. My mother stood up. Sophia, he's your brother. I know, I said. And if he wants my help, he can start by apologizing. For skipping my opening. For lying about the date. For trying to take my recipes. For calling me selfish. And then, maybe, we can talk about a loan. A loan, not a gift. With interest. And a payment plan. Alex stared at me. You're serious. I've never been more serious. He looked at our parents. Are you going to let her do this? My father stood up slowly. He walked over to me. For a moment, I thought he might yell. Instead, he put his hand on my shoulder. She's right, Alex, he said quietly. We've babied you for too long. It's time you grew up. Alex looked around the room, desperate for someone to take his side. No one did. Fine, he said. I don't need any of you. I'll figure it out myself. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My family is falling apart. I knelt beside her. No, Mom. It's finally becoming real. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I'm sorry, Mija. I'm sorry we didn't come to your opening. I'm sorry we believed Alex when he said it was the wrong date. I'm sorry we didn't see what was happening. I took her hand. I forgive you, Mom. But things have to change. She nodded. I know. Over the next few weeks, my family slowly rebuilt itself. Alex got a job as a server at a chain restaurant. It was humbling for him, but he showed up every day. He started making payments on his debt, $200 a month. It would take him years to pay it off, but he was doing it. My parents came to Ember for dinner. They sat at that same table, the one that had been empty on opening night. They tried every dish. My mother cried when she tasted the ropa vieja croquettes. Abuela would be so proud, she whispered. My father asked if I needed help with anything. I told him he could help by coming once a month, just to have dinner. He agreed. We never created the family trust. I kept legal ownership of the recipes, but I added a provision in my will that they would return to the family after my death. Split equally between any children I might have and any children Alex might have. Fair, but earned. Vanessa disappeared. Her parents' Ponzi scheme collapsed, and they fled the country. There was a warrant out for her arrest, but she was gone. 6 months after that disastrous family meeting, I won my first James Beard Award. This time, my family was there, all of them. They sat in the front row and cheered when I went up to accept the award. When I got back to my table, there was a gift waiting, a small box, wrapped in blue paper. Inside was Abuela's silver cross necklace, the one she wore every day of her life, and a note from my mother. She would have wanted you to have this. You earned it. We love you. We're sorry it took us so long to show it. I put on the necklace and wore it on stage when they called me back for photos. That night, lying in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about the empty table at my opening. I thought about the trust documents. I thought about Vanessa and the near disaster she had almost caused. And I realized something. I didn't need them to validate my success. I didn't need them to show up for me to know I had value. I had built something beautiful. Something that honored my grandmother. Something that was mine. But having them there, having them finally see me, finally support me, that was the dessert after a perfect meal. Not necessary, but sweet. I texted Marcus. Thank you for having my back. He texted back immediately. Always, chef. That's what family does. And he was right. Family isn't always the people you're related to. Sometimes it's the people who show up when it matters. Sometimes it's the people who believe in you before you're successful. Sometimes it's the people who sit at your empty table and tell you to keep cooking. Real family earns their seat at your table. And once they do, you make sure they never leave hungry.